Okay, we've got the boxes unloaded, and we've got them. I've got them laid out kind of like in groupings the way they go together. We have our screw package, and all the screws are packaged individually, and they're labeled A, B, C, and D, and the instructions tell you where to use them. I suggest when you open them, you leave them in the package so you know which screws go where. This is the instruction sheet, fairly simple to follow. And when I put them together, I use what they call an impact driver with a Phillips tip screwdriver on the end. Be careful when using this. You want to firmly seat your screws, but you want to drive them too hard because you will split the wood. All right. Now, we're going to put together a Marriott, which has 2 nesting boxes. The only difference between that and the Classic is the Classic has 1 nesting box. And I'll show you the differences in them as we go, but for instructional purposes of putting it together, they're identical. So we're going to start with putting the 4 basic walls of the coop together. You have the front, the rear, and 2 side walls. On the Marriott, both side walls have an opening for the nesting box. And the walls fit either side. Just make sure that the slots for the nesting box dividers are on the outside. Before we start putting it together, let me point out some things. On the front and rear walls, you'll see little tabs of wood down on the bottom by the leg. Your side walls set right on top of that. That's a guide to show you where they go. And then when you get ready to tighten it and put it together, tighten it together, make sure the side walls are flush with the inside edge of this. That's important because they have enough play to where if you have them in and you tighten them, your tray will not fit. So make sure that the side walls are flush with the inside. Okay? Put it together. Goes together with nuts and bolts. I just make sure they're flush with the inside. The other side wall for the Marriott has an opening for the nesting box. If you're putting the Classic together, your opposite wall will look like this. Solid. And this is interchangeable. Depending on which side you want the nesting box on the Classic, you can put it on either side. They're interchangeable. And we now put on the back. And there again, making sure it's flush on the inside. Okay. There's 4 walls put together. And I think next will be the nesting boxes. Now we're going to put the nesting boxes together. They basically have 3 major parts. The front panel, which has the part of the latch on it, and 2 side panels. And the side panels are tapered, so they create a runoff of water away from the coop. These also bolt together. There's 2 bolts on each side. You just bolt the sides to the front piece and then we'll mount it to the coop. Okay, I've got the nesting box assembled, but I haven't tightened the screws yet. I usually wait till I have it mounted and make sure that everything's square before I tighten it up. So the nesting box bolts to the coop, same way. Insert the bolt, put the nut on. And I always put the bolts in with the head on the inside of the coop. It gives me more room to access them with the screw gun or the screwdriver. With the nuts on the inside of the nesting box. There's 4 bolts that holds the nesting box to the coop. Now we will assemble the other nesting box and attach it to the coop, get it like this one, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we have the nesting boxes attached to the coop, but we don't have the screws tight. Now we're going to put the floors in. The floors are 2 pieces per side. And you notice they're notched to fit the inside here. They just lay down in the bottom. And those are screwed down. And all I do is line them up so all the gaps look even. It tells me I'm fairly square, and I'm going to put the screws in. Okay, we've got the nesting box floors are screwed in. Nesting boxes are all tightened. All the screws are tightened. Now the next we will probably put the tray in. The tray goes in from the back. The tray just slides on 2 boards as runners. Now when you put the tray in, if you'll notice, it should be flush here with the back panel. If it's not, you may have to do a little adjustment. So it is flush, it's nice and even. That means your coop is square. So the tray will slide in and out real nice, and now you can put your roofs on when the time comes, and you'll know that they're all set there. Okay, we've got the slide out trays in. It's flush, so we know the coop is square and everything. Next you put the perches in. You have 3 perches, and they just lay in the slots provided for them down here. Okay, next is the nesting box lids and hinges. The nesting box lids are left and right. They have a pad for the hinge to screw to, and they go on the back of the coop, the back side of the coop. And the hinges for that are marked right and left. And you distinguish that by facing the nesting box. The right hinge goes on the right side of the nesting box, which in this case would be the rear part. And I find it a little easier if I install the hinge onto the lid first. Now with the hinge attached, I'm going to collapse it, and then I'm going to install the nesting box lid. The lid has a backer bar on it. That goes, you hold it up like this, get it in the coop. I should make sure you have your hinge flaps down, forward. They're already installed. And then make sure your latch is lined up so it will go over the the hasp is lined up to go over the latch. Then you flip your hinge flaps up, and there should be indentations there to where the screws go. And then we install screws on the hinges. After screwing the nesting box lid on, now we need to attach the hinge. There's 2 marks in here where the screws go for the hinge, and the same situation. What I do is open the hinge all the way, put a screw in, line it up on where the mark is for the screw, and then put the other one in. Line it up for the mark. There. Now the hinge is installed. It's a self-locking hinge. You open the door and it locks. You have to push it in like that and it closes. There you go. Do the same thing to the other side and then we'll move on. Okay, we've got the nesting box lids secured, the hinges attached, and we can throw the dividers in now. You have 2 for each side. They go with the rounded part up and facing in the coop, and they fit in the notches provided. Do that on each side. And we will install the front steps. Okay, the front steps, and then of course the little steps go up. Just there's no markings for these screws. Just I kind of center it of the door, and then put 2 screws in. Okay, there we go. Next is the roof panels. Checking one more time to make sure my tray is flush in the back, which tells me the walls are straight, square, and I put the roof panels on. And these are universal. They'll fit either side. Piece of wood here lines them up, like so. Just make sure they're even, flush. Last, we have the peak cap, which is the panel that covers where the 2 roof halves come together. Just put it up there, make sure it's laying flat, and there's 4 screws for that. Okay, there's your completed coop, the Marriott or the Classic. The Marriott has 6 nesting areas, the Classic has 3. Good for 5 or 6 regular chickens or more, depending on their size. And we hope you enjoy them. Well, now you've purchased your coop, you've put it together, and you're getting ready to put it to use. We have a few suggestions for you before you do. Before you put your pets in it, we suggest you spray it down with a water sealer. Inexpensive water-based water sealer, and you can do it. Just put it in a garden sprayer like this, pump it up, and just hose it down real good. All the exterior parts are going to be in the weather. You don't have to do the inside. And we suggest you do this every spring when you clean her out after the winter time. Give her another coat, and it'll help prolong the life of the coop. And another thing I would suggest is that each spring when you do the cleanup and you're going to recoat it, you might also want to check the screws and with a screwdriver, make sure they're tight, because over time wood expands, contracts, and that does have a tendency to let screws get loose. So you can double check that too. And we hope you enjoy them, and thank you for your purchase.